Today's episode is an interview episode, and there were some audio issues, especially in the beginning of the episode. Stick with it, though. It's, I think, a very interesting look into the Scoregasm Master, which is made by Terry and the folks at Pinball Life and Day One Pinball. The audio starts to clean up at about 16 minutes, so if you're really unhappy with the audio, if you skip to that point, it does start to get better. There is a bit of echo beyond that, but I promise I was not talking to Terry from under the ocean or across a baseball field. There were just some issues with the setup that I had. So, Terry, if you're listening, sorry for the first 15 or 16 minutes, but I didn't want you to have to repeat the entire interview. So without further ado, here we go. What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast. Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge, and today I have a special guest, Terry DeZwarte from Pinball Life and Day One Pinball. Hi, Terry. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Terry and his team over at Day One have recently remade, with some modern touches, a game from the 30s called Contact Master. It was originally by Pamco. Their take is called Scoregasm Master, and I wanted to have Terry on to talk about some of the differences between the 30s game and the modern game.
Ours is more fun.
Fair enough. Interview over. So what makes yours more fun than the 30s version?
Well, we took an old, obviously, I guess it's slightly electromechanical game, turned it into a more of a modern, solid state game. The original was battery operated, 2 coils, a buzzer. We stayed with the integrity of the game. We didn't want to change it into something that it's not. It is an older amusement device, and but we wanted to add things like call outs, and we wanted to add full art, something that was probably a lot harder to do than this has got art, full art on the playfield, full art on the cabinet. We added a back box. We wanted to add not only a subwoofer, but then we wanted to add tweeters up in the back box, and just a little display there. It's a static display, but just something to give it a little height in the back. Mm-hmm. We gave the shape of it. It's more the shape of a modern pinball cabinet, smaller. But those old bagatelles were they were very thin.
Yes.
It's up and down, really. But it just looks a little slight by this. So we gave it a little more modern feel that way. And we also added a bunch of original music tunes. Because, again, even if you're playing something like that, people are used to playing with a musical background. It's been a long time. Really, it was 99.9% silent.
Yes.
The silence is deafening. Like it. And then, we wanted to, keep the gameplay the same, but at the same time, we wanted everybody to know that it was, not from the 1930s, that it was something that was being made now. So following our business model of build something almost nobody wants and then name it something horrible so even less people want it, Scoregasm. So if you keep the market very, very thin, you don't have to build very much.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that is one approach. So,
well, we're not. We didn't do it for profit.
Yeah.
If we had set out to make money, boy, this would not be it. We set out to have fun, learn how to make something from start to finish. Although I've made tons of parts and assemblies, and I mean, you name it, metal, rubber, plastic, and the 12, 15 years I've been doing this, we've never done one thing from beginning to end. From the concept, drawing it all out, just making a complete for sale amusement device. And if we were going to do something like that, I wanted to be able to actually do it, design it forever, run out of money, ask people for money, and, then which as we've seen recently, kind of eventual failure. Like, we wanted to keep it in some sort of zone where, look, if I lost every penny I invested, I'd still be okay. Which means, obviously, I'm not going to be spending millions of dollars on this. And, there was a bunch of us. We just sort of figured out around Expo last year that, wow, between all of us, we actually had everybody brought something different to the table, and we can make a complete product. Why make a cheap sort of homemade pinball machine when you can make something that really, in my opinion, is a lot cooler when you're talking about a lower dollar item market. This is, this isn't, and no offense to Dizzle, they made a really fun pinball for us. But we felt like that then, and nobody was in game ready to help. Obviously, that might like me, but it was a unique choice. And we love playing these little games. I mean, I've never played a bingo, but I've played lots of bagatelles. Obviously, they're friendly wagering devices. There's more fun when there's a ball around the glass between friends, And that's we usually start playing pinball in the evening, and by the end of the night, we're playing the bagatelles. So to all of us that were involved, it was something that was appealing, that we wanted to make.
That's excellent. And
it all started with bagatelle.
That's right, home amusements. So I was refreshing my memory today on the Day One Pinball blog on WordPress, and I noticed some of the mechanisms that you use are 3D printed.
Yeah.
For example, the ball lift motor and the tilt. Is that correct? Not motor. Ball lift.
The mechanism. Yeah, there's 22 different 3D printed parts on this. We used, we fabbed a lot of metal parts. A lot of it's wood, obviously. But there were some parts that, without 3D printing, you could never make 30. It would just be completely cost inefficient. The ball lift mechanism, originally a top metal device, tooling that and making 30. I mean, you'd have $300 in each mechanism. So it wasn't possible. And we found out printing, we could redesign it, we could make it stronger than it originally was, made out of plastic. So we've had really no issues. A couple false parts, but once we found weak spots and redesigned everything, we came out with a rock solid. So yeah, how you would do it without 3D printing in such small numbers? You tell me. Now remember, you don't walk up to it and see it. Most of the 3D printed parts are underneath the playfield. You don't even.
Right.
It's like 90% made of wood, the whole thing. Just like the wood. And the mechanism is actually, buck mechanism that launch the ball, move the ball down the playfield. That's all standard pinball parts made out of metal. That's not stuff.
Right. And I was noticing that in the ball lift you have a what looks like a standard plunger with a rubber tip that's pushing on the 3D printed portion of the mechanism. Do you have concerns about durability there?
Not at all. I mean, we have how many balls have we shot and lifted in this game? I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands. We've taken one show game to 3 different shows and had 8-year-old kids beat the crap.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about little kids in this game. Maybe that they can see it, they're tall enough, but man, they just come over and just turn the bitch over. Let me tell you, if they can survive that, they can survive anything. I
Oh,
mean,
fair enough.
I should have videotaped it just to show the durability. It's pretty shocking. But we get to a show to see if it'll make it. That was you kind of want to knock the hell off. At the same time, you're kind of like, well, see if this will take. And again, we redesigned a couple things. Once we did, and I have no issues it wearing. Here's the other thing. Look, it's a STL file. I mean, anybody can we can 3D print another one anytime. Yeah. Anybody can download the file as 3D printers get more common, and just make their own if it ever did. I mean, everything here is open source. From you can change the music, the call outs, any prints that anybody wants. Absolutely, more than happy to give that stuff out forever.
That's really cool. That'll keep the game going forever. So that's quite exciting. Now, as far as the artwork, it was John Yowsey, the renowned pinball artist, and
yes.
So how did you get involved with him?
Well, I did not know John. I have always liked his art, and I thought, it's a new company. It's a strange beast that we're making. It's an awkward name, to say the least. Let's give it some legitimacy by, getting see if we can get a real pinball artist on board. And for me, that's a very short list. Kevin O'Connor, Greg, but he's over at Stern, and although I consider Greg a friend of mine, I would never want to ask him to do it with his obligations at Stern. He's working for Stern right now. I'm sure that's a conflict of interest. John, I didn't know. I looked him up on the internet, sent him an email, and this was very early on. Boy, we had nothing. I mean, we just kind of maybe we were just kind of torn apart, and we're looking at it very early days. And I was just putting feelers out there to say, hey, you think you'd be interested in something goofy like this? And he emailed me back going, yeah, maybe. And so he agreed to come out and take a look at what we were doing. And it turns out that I think I could throw a rock through his window from here. That's how close he lives. I mean,
that's convenient.
3 minutes with traffic.
Cool.
So that ended up being very convenient, but it was very accessible, and it just ended up we just hit it off, and I think he just thought it was a kooky enough idea that he would do it. And he was very kind about his pricing, and he was such a professional. Without him, I mean, the art wouldn't have been the same, wouldn't have got done in the manner it did. I mean, he does everything right the first time. I can't say enough good things about him. And I love the way it came out. It was exactly what we were looking for. We wanted something, I know the name's a little racy, I guess. I mean, I don't think it is, but obviously I'm wrong, because plenty of people yelled at me about it. I mean, this country is so uptight that half of the word orgasm offends them. I mean, I think we've run out of real problems.
That's a good point.
Don't even say gasm, for goodness sakes. I mean, so, being that the name was there to get people's attention. Look, this isn't trans, this isn't a bench, this is non-licensed. We wanted something, that it would grab you, like a license does, for better or worse. But on the same time, you don't make, anything racy. You have to be classy at the same time. I know it sounds weird, but in John's idea, we'll do sort of the 40s style. You notice the art. Geez, it's a Disney. I guess we could be named Hooray.
Fun times.
So John, did his thing, did it well, zero complaints, nothing but compliments for the guy. It was a pleasure working with him, and I think at the end of the day, it really did add a nice, bit of clout to the game that we had him working for us. And someone uncredited actually Dennis Norman a bit as well. He had a lot of dial-up in the cabinet. Guy who's been around, knows what he's doing. A few things that you're doing is like, listen, don't ruin it. Do it this way. And those guys are all kind of makes me. They're all wrong. If you're going to put legs on it, Dennis was like, you've got to put nice wood legs on there. And he was right. And it looks terrible with metal legs. It's just that it was easy. We already had it.
Yeah, but sometimes what's easy is not right. So.
But my answer is really long. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's exactly why I wanted you to come on, is get you to talk in a bit more detail than what we've seen. Next, I wanted to talk about how it's assembled. So on the blog, it's very fascinating to look at the way that you have the playfield assemblies in this. You have the baffle underneath, of course, and then are there 2 additional pieces of playfield?
Well, it takes 4 legs to make playfield. We've got what we call the paper clip. Looks like a paper clip, and that basically makes the border of the playfield. You get the main playfield, you've got the border. Usually in a pinball machine, the border is either a metal rail or a little piece of wood they just put there. This is like a whole sort of gutted piece of 3/4 birch that you cut it out, and you have left where the ball is. That is attached to the playfield, and then the very bottom part is where the ball rolls back to the trough to get in the queue for the lifter, and then in between that is the baffle board, the reset board, which when your game is over, you push the button that lets all the balls run. The original game, all these pieces were like kind of separate.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't lined up right. It just didn't work right. And so our idea was to do we completely redesigned it under the playfield. The mechanisms, the playfield, the baffle board, how it all operated. We ended up with this thing we ended up calling playfield sandwich, which the whole thing, instead of pulling out in all these different pieces, pulls out in this one big slab that is the whole playfield. And once you get it locked and set, and everything is lined up, screw it all together, it basically, there's almost nothing that can go wrong. It basically works into infinity at that point.
It's very impressive to see.
Yeah, we spent a lot. That ended up in the engineering prototyping side of things. We spent a lot of time. Everything you do affects something else, and then you change and it affects something else. You're thinking when you first walk up to the game, like how complicated could it be? Put some balls in a hole and they roll back down, and you put some more balls in the hole. But it actually, I cannot believe people make pinball machines. That's an insane process. I can see why there's a lot of failure. It is hard, I think, is what we all like to say. Making pinball was hard. I mean, making bagatelle pin games is hard. I couldn't even imagine making, even a bingo game. If you look in those games, they're very complicated.
Oh, yes.
I've never played one, but I have actually looked inside one. I know it's kind of backwards, but there's a lot going on in these old games. There really is.
Absolutely. And that's obviously something that fascinates me greatly. Any of these games that are kind of forgotten history from the 30s up until about the wood rail era, and up until the 60s, no one talks about that stuff anymore.
Nick, flippers are a fad.
Yeah, it's true. So, I love those tabletop games from the 30s that run off the dry cell batteries.
Right.
I just think there's an amazing amount of innovation that happened in that decade.
Oh, the mechanical innovation is unbelievable in the game. I mean, it's fascinating, actually. I mean, how they accomplish so much movement, so many different scoring options with these mechanical devices. Play,
Yep.
moving balls when they needed to be, showing action, fleet, Bally Fleet. Just amazing what they did with one coil.
Yes. Yeah. And just tying everything together with rods and just all kinds of really interesting stuff. So, with Scoregasm Master, you've got a solid state board which drives the coils.
Yes.
And, that should increase the reliability quite a bit on that type of game. When you're talking about outlet power versus, a battery powered situation, you're talking about having to step down that voltage for the single switch in the game, as the blog says, and using the originals method for that switch, which I think you mentioned it uses bolts to actually make the connection.
What they did was, they had a speeder totter on top of the turn lower play field. And to get the electric up there, they just basically put a bolt through the wood, put a wire on each side. That's how they did it. Then they ran it back down the other side that way. It was really the design, first of all, to replicate it would have been needlessly expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a good design anyway. I mean, we took just a modern rollover switch, and then added, I believe, and boy, I do not have an electronic background. There were smarter people than me involved in this to get that done. But what I believe we did was we added a capacitor there as well, because you need the switch can't just be that instant that it rolls over a rollover switch. When it fires that solenoid, it has to stay up for a second or so. That makes sure that the ball moves out of the hole and rolls down the play field. And so adding a capacitor then, made it so that although it's just a rollover switch, it acts a little different.
Right. And without having switches in the holes, in the trap holes, that would be very difficult to do, because you're not sensing with the matrix, every single hole that everything is trapped in. So, yeah, buffering with a capacitor makes sense.
You have to add the score up at the end.
Yeah, which I mean, that's how you did it.
That seemed to be the most perplexing and downside for just about everybody who played it. Their lives are so easy. They cannot believe that they were going to have to add 2,000 plus 1,000 plus 500 plus 4,500 plus 100. Like, that's the deal breaker for them.
This game was great until I had to do math.
It helps you score with the lady. But there's a little math at the end. That's what makes it a bagatelle. Otherwise, in my opinion, you've got, if it keeps score for you and the balls end up down at the bottom of the play field in some sort of trop system, to me, that's the next step. That's flip release.
Yep. I would agree.
Bagatelle.
Yep. So once you move away from marbles and into steel balls, I mean, that's kind of what you're talking about.
Right.
Now, I've seen pictures of this game, and you do have a separately colored ball. And that one scores double, I presume?
That one scores double. So there ends up being a lot of strategy, because it's going to come up randomly when you play.
Okay.
And when you reset the game, All the balls fall through the holes. That game's over. All the balls now are going to randomly queue up in the trough. But you don't know when the red ball is going to come out. So depending on when it comes out, there's you might want to, if it comes out early, or if you've got one of the two really, there's two progressive scoring holes. I don't know if you've ever played the original Contact Master or not.
Only seen pictures.
There's a switch that's that very top hole, the Scoregasm hole, for lack of a better, that's what it is. It's the main hole there, the contact hole. Mm-hmm. It controls two solenoids that are in two different holes. And you want to load those, then hit the contact switch, which moves those balls down for higher scoring, and then opens up those again to be loaded again to be moved down for even higher scoring later. So you really want to get the red ball in one of those two solenoid positions. If they're already full, then you definitely want to go for the contact switch, because every time you go to the contact, any ball that goes to the contact switch, you get that ball back. That comes, goes over the rollover switch, comes back down to the trough. It's still in your game.
Wow. Okay.
Only, to end the game, you've got to have 10 balls on top of the playfield. And everyone goes through the contact hole. That's going to move any balls forward that are in the buck position, but that ball now is getting back in line for the same game.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I can see that there'd be quite a bit of strategy there, just in when and how you actually trigger that switch.
Yes, and they were genius at how they we kept the pin positions in the holes exactly as original, because we just couldn't find a flaw with the layout. They really, somebody put thousands of hours of play into this to figure out, how you can, you get pretty darn good at bouncing balls on top of pins and rolling them down. They're all kind of in this V shape, and the bigger points are in the middle. Right. And you'd be surprised. You get pretty good at nudging them and getting that ball to go where you want. Obviously, the tilt, there is a tilt on the game, mm-hmm. but it's by design a little looser than in like tournament play and pinball, or probably even most people, how they set it up. Because if you can't give it a good nudge, you can't interact with the ball. Basically, right. Nudging is your flippers in this sense, and so if you're not allowed to do that, it's not fun. Right. It's there to prevent basically abuse, moving the game across the floor. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's. Did I answer your question? Geez, I don't remember what it was.
If you didn't answer that one, then you answered a different one. So yes. So, what's the highest score that you've gotten on it?
The highest score possible, first of all, is 27,000.
Okay.
I think my highest score is about 15,000.
Very good. And so do you have ringers there at Pinball Life that play and can best that score easily?
Yancey Blaylock is not only a good pinball player, but I guess he's a good amusement device player, because he's definitely the guy to beat in our circle. He's the guy who owned the original Contact Master. Definitely, it's it's not all luck, because
right,
he can pretty consistently beat other people. So that's he's got the touch.
That's good. So as far as the coils involved, do you have multiple coils, or is it just a single solenoid with an armature?
It's two coils, two separate coils fired by one switch.
Okay. And
modern, again, the original coils, quite the kind of hokey setup in my. We use, obviously, no need to recreate that. Wasn't mm-hmm. to start with. None of those parts are available. We wanted to use readily accessible parts, off the shelf sort of parts that we manufacture, that we have here, that we make in bulk to keep the price down. So what you'll see underneath is, again, very different than the original, but it works in exactly the same way. Just a little more reliable than made with 2014, 15 parts.
Yep. And do you have the option of getting it without legs if you wanted to have a countertop version?
No, it's really pretty big.
Is it?
I've never seen a counter, and I haven't seen it all, and you've seen way more than me, Nick, so I might be being naive here, but I don't know if you've played like the original Ballyhoo, Bagatelle.
So it's about that size?
Pop size, like a little tabletop size. This is we actually did the math. It's 87% the size of a modern pinball.
Oh, okay.
So it's the playfield being basically 22 by our width is I think 18 or 19.
Okay.
So it's it's smaller, definitely. I would say it's kind of safe cracker size.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that puts it in a ballpark in my head there.
Right.
That's a lot bigger than I had thought. And
well, that's maybe misleading you a little bit, because safe cracker's got got a full size head on it.
well, yeah.
So it doesn't look. When you actually, it doesn't look as big as a safe cracker, but when you measure it, it's very close.
Wow.
Boxed up, it's 20 by 25 by 48.
Okay.
New in box, that's the size.
Yeah, that's quite a bit bigger than I thought. So.
But sure, we'll sell it without the legs. We don't care.
So, and it uses wooden legs, as you mentioned. And I hear there's custom cup holders that you can get, pin gulps.
There are. Comes with, a custom key fob, and you can get a custom pin gulp if you would like. That's an add-on. It's a mod, I guess, is what it would be. Initially, we were going to have the back box be an add-on piece, too. But then it just sounded and looked so good with it that we just decided that nobody should not have it that way. So, yeah. So, yeah, that's definitely Doug Manley, who does all the custom pin gulps that we do. There's my phone. He did a great job. Although the circle art is taken from the stuff that John did, but all the graphics done.
So, are there any? How many more do you have to sell through? I know the initial run was going to be very limited.
Well, we made 10 engineering samples, which are gone. We made 20 of the production models, which I think I have maybe 10 left.
Okay.
I'm not trying to sell them anywhere. Try to buy one. You can't. You have to find me, buy one, basically, at this point. I must enjoy owning them.
You like having the boxes stacked up? Is that?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, because I've got a couple UK distributors that are wanting me to send them some, and a couple other sort of home game room places that are interested. And, we've only got 30, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really want to make more. I know that sounds terrible, but it's like it was just everybody's doing it in their spare time, and it was a lot of work. We like it, quit while it's still fun. And as far as Day One Pinball goes, hey, it's a real company. It's incorporated. That can be dormant. That can come back to life, anytime I feel like it. Maybe next year we might, again, given our business model, make something nobody wants and then name it something that even less people will want. We're kind of tossing around remaking Ringer. I don't know if you've ever played that game.
That's I think so. Is that one of the ones that's kind of a figure 8 design?
alternating horseshoes. Penny pinch, it's called as well sometimes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
So we were going to maybe make that, rename it midget toss.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah.
Because that's, again, like a super fun game that I don't know. I mean, yeah, you played it, but it's
Actually, I haven't played it, but I've heard a lot about it.
and it's just it's great fun. Again, it's a nice, like, bet your buddy $1. Really fun game. And I think, again, something that probably, although I haven't scrutinized the inside of one, there's a couple big obstacles, but that I think it's something that you actually could make and get from start to finish in a 6-month period, which was our goal, by the way. We started at Expo. We wanted to have this done by MGC in Milwaukee, which is, I think, 1 week shy of 6 months.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's crazy.
We were till 3 in the morning a few times that last week. Let me tell you.
I believe it.
But yeah, that if it goes beyond that, and again, everybody's doing it for fun. They're doing it in their spare time. And if it isn't, when it stops being fun, people stop showing up. They just won't be filled. If we were if it ever got to some other alternative universe and people wanted hundreds of Scoregasms, the business model would have to completely change. I mean, I don't even have I'll be honest and upfront, I don't have a plan for that. Why they're not even for sale. They are. Call me. I can sell you one, but I haven't bothered to even put it on my own website.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah, because I had looked for one. So now the price point that you were selling, are they still $2,000 MSRP?
Yes. It is really, really hard to make something again in that small amount. I mean, everything you do kind of kills you. Like John, who gave us great friend pricing. But when you're only making 30, you take the art and divide by 30, instead of dividing by 1,000,
right,
or even 100. It's all the prototyping, which we made a proof of concept, we made a prototype here, we made a production prototype. It's like all that work that you do, and then you're really just going to get you're just going to make a few games at the end of the day, which is fine. But saying that you can do it cheap, $2,000 is cheap.
Yeah, I would agree, and I hope you don't take that as criticism. I was just making sure that was the price.
I'll tell you, if you wanted to do this and make 1,000 of them, say there was, the world flipped on its head and there was 1,000. I mean, I would say you could probably sell them for half of that. I don't know why not. Quantity is everything involved. It's everything.
The economies of scale, but and they're working against you. Right?
I think that's a pretty good deal. There's 7.2 billion people. I only got to find like 11 more.
Seems reasonable, and it's a really beautiful product, at least from pictures. And I really hope to see one day here.
It looks better in person. I took the pictures, so we didn't spend any money on a studio. And I did the best I could, but I still don't think I've seen a picture that really does it justice. Maybe that's me posting. I don't know, but I mean, just about everybody who sees it is saying, "Wow, looks so much better in person." And I don't think the pictures look bad. I just don't know how to really make it look, better than I have.
Well, unfortunately, I have no photography insight for you. But
where are you located at? Where do you hail from?
I'm from Richmond, Virginia. So
my buddy Joe from Laserific is taking a Scoregasm over to the Rocky Mountain show. So there's a plug for that, I guess. But it's going the wrong way for you.
Yeah. I do have a friend who is probably going to attend, though, so I'll have him check it out.
See if you can take a better picture than me.
I'll see what I can do. So now, if you were to manufacture a new ringer, would that mean that Pinball Life might carry score reels and other associated accoutrements?
If we, Ringer did use a score reel, obviously. If we did it, it would probably be a digital display.
Oh, well.
Remanufacturing a score reel and making, it takes two, so making 30, that's 60. It's just, maybe if you use a stepper motor system, kind of like Lonelli's using, kind of like, didn't Kings and Queens do that? That was the name of that thing that Fabulous Fantasies did.
The remake of King of Diamonds.
King of Diamonds, there you go, yeah. Didn't they use sort of a stepper motor with the score reel type of thing?
Yep, and midway in the 60s.
I've never looked at what that would cost.
I bet it would be expensive.
And so little happens as far as scoring and Ringer. I mean,
right.
Score 9-4. It's that's. I don't know if people are looking at the score reel for a visual on that. It is different than a pinball machine, which has kind of the whole constant scoring and the clinging and the clanging of the score reels going around. Is part of the attraction, definitely. And Ringer, I'd have to say, probably not so much. So I don't know if it'd be worth the investment. But I guess we'll see.
Well, hey, yeah. Who knows what the future holds, right? So,
yeah.
So as far as Pinball Life, I focus primarily on EMs and bingos and older games. There's not a huge selection of anything that's outside of course, the modern, and I'm sure that's because there's not a huge demand for it.
I don't think there is. I mean, you tell me. Is there? If you think there's something that really needs to be made, I mean, I'm always open to suggestions. But I'll show my stupidity here. If there was things that really needed to be made that nobody was making, I mean, I would look at it. I mean, I do believe. I'm not sure, but I think Steve Young from Pinball Resource, doesn't he carry the biggest supply of that sort of stuff? I mean, I guess that'd be something you'd tell me.
Absolutely, and he does a lot as far as making parts which are no longer available.
So in that sort of market, which I would say, I might be missing it, but I would say it's somewhat limited. If Steve's already supplying that market and he's doing a good job, which I assume he is, I don't really see a need for anybody else to step in, because I don't think you can split that market in two and both people be happy. So you need another guy selling EM parts? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I don't necessarily think so. But then again,
if there's things that aren't being made, I mean, we have the capabilities to make just about anything, and that it's a conversation for another time. But I'm always open to any ideas on different things.
Well, over the years, there are many things that are no longer available, but, I haven't had those conversations with Steve either, so it's, but, and I'm sure if he's not making them, there might be a reason why, too, so.
I mean, he'll forget more about pinball than I'll ever know.
Oh, yeah, ditto. But yeah, so anything else, Scoregasm Master, that you'd like to talk about? I'd kind of like to talk a little bit about the tilt mechanism.
Okay.
If you got it.
Well, what they call the pedestal-style tilt mechanism. I think this was only the second game it was ever used in, and I believe it's been a while since I read my history. Harry Williams designed this game.
Yep.
Before, obviously, Williams, he was just selling his designs. I believe that's one of the patents hold for this game, but I might be speaking out of turn there. But it's a pedestal-style tilt mechanism that I've never seen anywhere beyond like probably 1935 or 6. But very, very effective. I mean, in a payout system, like what this would originally been. I mean, the ball's sitting up on a little pedestal. If you push it too hard, it falls off the pedestal. And if you go try to get paid out for your great score, you know, the bartender points at the ball, not on the pedestal, and says, "No money for you." And that's just, you know, doesn't make a sound or anything, and that's another thing that confused people. It's like, how will I know I tilted? And I said, well, your buddy will take your money.
Problem solved.
He's watching it. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating, you know, to kind of travel back in time with something like that.
But that mechanism is very simple, really effective, and you know, you just look at its simplicity. It's almost beautiful, and just how like somebody came up with this like really simple, very effective way of, you know, telling you how hard you could hit a machine and whether the game had been pushed past that point during the game. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with them, but I really wasn't. I think that's the first one I'd ever seen. You tell me, how many games were they used on? A lot? I know they were used on more than Contact Master. Yeah,
PAMCO used them, but I'm not sure how far they carried or if they carried into Williams after that. So I don't know.
I like that tilt mechanism that was used. I forget who used it, but it was a little needle that would go from OK over to tilt.
Tilt, yep. That's a
cool one too.
Yeah, it's like a kind of an iconic representation because, you know, they see that in cartoons and so forth as well. But yeah. So I also wanted to ask about the baffle reset. So you have another plunger, which acts as the baffle pusher. And was there ever a thought to put a coin slide in?
Well, no, not really, because honestly, who's going to operate this thing?
Good point.
Come on, kid, get your nickels.
Yep.
And you know what? This was for fun. I didn't want to be perceived in any way, shape, or form as trying to actually be any sort of competition to manufacturers that I respect, and not looking to get into that field. So we made the decision to go with non-coin op. Certainly, it could very easily be coin op. I mean, basically, the knob, the lever that resets the playfield, that was where they still make that mechanism.
Oh yeah.
Washers and dryers, you know. All that does is, you know how they work. You put the nickel in, and it allows the thing to be pushed all the way in for the reset. Without the nickel, it won't push all the way in. Ours just pushes all the way in every time.
Right.
I would say, if you wanted to really be industrious, it wouldn't be too hard to convert.
I was thinking that.
But for our uses, and I also don't know, and you know, since we never done anything like this, I didn't really look into it. I feel like if it's for commercial use, there might be other sorts of hoops that you have to jump through. Honestly, I'm not sure.
I was wondering if that might have been the reason.
All our electronic components are UL listed, off the shelf power supplies and amplifiers. You know, so you know we're all set there. But I don't really know the process and wasn't interested in learning it. So we decided to keep it non-coin op. And I understand that coin op is part of what makes these games collectible.
Mm-hmm.
But I only got to sell 30. Ours is.
Right. So you only need 30 people again. So yeah, that does make it a little easier. So have you put any thought into making some kind of modern trade stimulator?
What?
Some kind of modern trade stimulator, like in bars they used to have these roll down games or little mini, yeah, or like little mini slot machines that would sit on a table, and
I love Lucky 7.
Yeah.
I play it every time I'm up at the VFW in Michigan.
Yes, and you just went there for the last show, correct?
We were actually, that was the first thing we were thinking about making.
Really?
First thing and then we opened it up, and then we're like, oh man, and those things are huge. I don't know if that's way bigger than a pinball machine.
Oh yeah.
So we opted out for now. But what a great game! I mean, love that game. Roll downs are a blast.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't rule it out in the future someday. Maybe I guess that's 2017. Maybe. But yeah, we want to, the things that we redo, I think, moving forward, definitely are going to be that sort of part of that eclectic mix, off the kind of beaten path, things that you would just, when you hear somebody's remaking it, you just can't believe anybody'd be that stupid. That's the thing we want to remake.
Gotcha. Yeah. Simulators is you could sell them to bars, but again, if you're not trying to cater to that market.
What? A trade? What?
So trade stimulators are, again, like little tiny slot machines or something. There's
Simulator.
Small coin-operated amusements, and by small, I mean really small, like maybe 12 by 12. And
what do they do?
Well, most of the time you put in a coin and they spin something. And when it stops spinning, depending on the position of the thing that was spinning, you would get a free whiskey or, something like that. So
well, doesn't sound all that fun.
It doesn't have to be fun. It's free whiskey.
Whiskey sounds fun, but the game itself doesn't really sound all that fun.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. Again, I'm thinking more of a marketing plan, so that's not very helpful.
You'd have to send me a link to one of those. I am not familiar with that product.
Sure, yeah. Happy to do so. And Terry, if you're ever in Richmond, let me know. Be happy to have you over and play a bingo or two.
How many do you have?
I got 3 at the moment.
Awesome.
And I've got a countertop game from the 30s.
It sounds fun.
Yeah. So, anything else you'd like to plug while you're here?
Nope. Thanks for having me. This was fun. I enjoy your podcast. Very good.
Thank you very much. And hope to talk to you again soon. And I'll shoot you a link to some pictures of trade simulators here.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Terry.
I want to thank my guest Terry from Pinball Life and Day One Pinball. You can buy pinball-related merchandise and pinball mechanisms and so forth from pinballlife.com. And you can also read about the Day One Pinball progress on dayonepinball.wordpress.com. If you would like to purchase a Scoregasm Master, contact Terry at Pinball Life. You can actually email him at Terry, Terry, at pinballlife.com. So, thank you again for listening. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.